You suffer more in imagination than in reality. Fear is a natural human emotion, but often our fears are exaggerated by our minds. We worry about losing our jobs, facing rejection, failing in our endeavors, or encountering disaster. But what if there was a way to weaken fear's grip on us? The Stoics believed there was, and they developed a practice called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. What is Premeditatio Malorum? Premeditatio Malorum translates to the premeditation of evils. It is the Stoic practice of envisioning possible misfortunes before they happen. The goal is not to dwell on negativity, but to prepare our minds so that we are not caught off guard when difficulties arise. He robs present ills of their power who have perceived their coming long before they arrive. Do not let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Do not dwell on all the bad things that might happen. Stay in the present moment. When walking barefoot, envision stepping on a sharp rock or thorn. By doing so, you prepare for discomfort before it arrives, making it easier to endure. If you wish to control your fears, do not wish for life without hardship, but for the strength to endure hardship. By visualizing difficulties in advance, we prepare emotionally and mentally, making ourselves more resilient when adversity strikes. How fear affects us. Fear often stems from uncertainty and lack of control. When we don't know what will happen, we imagine the worst and let anxiety take over. But in reality, fear usually does more harm than the situation itself. If you fear something, examine it carefully and break it down to its simplest parts. A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. The person who is truly free is the one who can live in any situation without fear. Instead of ignoring these fears or letting them control us, the Stoic method teaches us to confront them head-on through structured mental exercises. The practice of Premeditatio Malorum. If you fear something, examine it carefully and break it down to its simplest parts. Write down what you are most afraid of. Be specific. Example: I fear failing my business and going bankrupt. A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? Visualize yourself in that difficult situation. Do not hope that events will happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go smoothly. Once you've imagined the worst, ask, could I survive this? The answer is usually yes. Think of solutions in advance. Remember, many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Often, the worst-case scenario is unlikely or not as terrible as we imagine. Now that you've accepted the worst, take practical steps to reduce risk. Real-world applications of Premeditatio Malorum. In ancient Rome, military success depended on preparation and adaptability. Roman generals like Julius Caesar and Marcus Aurelius himself practiced Premeditatio Malorum before battles. They systematically envisioned worst-case scenarios, ambushes in unfamiliar terrain, unexpected weather conditions, or supply lines being cut off. By mentally rehearsing these challenges in advance, they were able to respond with calm precision when adversity struck. For example, Before his campaigns in Gaul, Caesar meticulously planned for various setbacks, ensuring his army could quickly adjust to battlefield surprises. His ability to anticipate and prepare for misfortune was a crucial factor in his military dominance. As Seneca reminds us, fortune falls heavily on those for whom she's unexpected. The one always on the lookout easily withstands her. By expecting difficulty, the Roman military leaders ensured they were never caught off guard. Business and entrepreneurship. Modern entrepreneurs face a battlefield of their own competition, financial risks, and uncertainty. Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, has openly credited Stoicism as a guiding philosophy in his life and business decisions. One of his most effective tools is what he calls fear setting, a practice that mirrors Premeditatio Malorum. Before making major decisions, Ferriss writes down his worst-case scenarios in detail: what could go wrong, how he would respond, and how he could minimize damage. By doing this, he removes the paralysis that fear often causes. Instead of avoiding risk, he embraces it strategically, knowing he is already prepared for setbacks. A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. This practice allows entrepreneurs to take bold actions without being dominated by fear of failure. Sport high-performance athletes understand that mental preparation is just as crucial as physical training. Olympic competitors and professional sports teams use a technique remarkably similar to Premeditatio Malorum. They visualize failure before their event. By imagining missing a crucial shot, stumbling in a race, or making a costly mistake, they prepare themselves emotionally for those possibilities. This means that if something does go wrong, they are not overwhelmed by panic. Instead, they remain composed, adapt, and continue performing at their best. If you fear something, examine it carefully and break it down to its simplest parts. The ability to anticipate obstacles and remain unfazed under pressure is what separates champions from the rest. Public speaking. For many people, public speaking is a terrifying experience. The fear of forgetting words, facing a hostile audience, or being judged can feel overwhelming. However, by applying Premeditatio Malorum, anyone can transform this fear into confidence. Before a speech, a speaker can visualize all possible difficulties, losing their train of thought, receiving tough questions, or experiencing technical issues. By pre-planning responses, they can stay in control even when things don't go perfectly. Do not let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Do not dwell on all the bad things that might happen. Stay in the present moment. Great speakers aren't fearless. They are simply prepared. Overcoming fear and building courage. By practicing Premeditatio Malorum, we train ourselves to expect adversity rather than fear it. Accept that setbacks are part of life. Develop a proactive mindset instead of a reactive one. Strengthen resilience and inner peace. When we anticipate obstacles and rehearse our responses, we no longer feel powerless. Instead, we cultivate a sense of control over how we react, making fear a tool for growth rather than a limitation. Conclusion. Premeditatio Malorum is one of the most powerful Stoic practices for overcoming fear. By preparing for difficulties, we strip them of their power. As Seneca reminds us, what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and the unexpected adds to the weight of a disaster. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. If we practice this exercise regularly, we will find ourselves calmer, stronger, and more prepared for whatever life throws at us. Reflection, questions. What is a major fear you have right now? How can you apply Premeditatio Malorum to prepare for it? What practical steps can you take to lessen the impact of that fear? By reflecting on these questions, you can begin implementing Stoic wisdom into your daily life. Thank you for attending this lecture. Now go and put Premeditatio Malorum into practice.